All right, let's turn to Joseph Ochieno. He's a writer and commentator on African affairs, and he joins me from London. Joseph, the military says it's targeting criminals. They say this is not a military coup. By all accounts, it sure sounds like a coup. What is your take on what we're seeing happen on the streets of Harare?
It is actually effectively a coup, except it's a unique coup. It's a unique coup in the sense that it's a coup within the established ruling ZANU-PF political party. That is important. And it's a coup within the nation state. And because it's a double coup, it means, therefore, that Mr. Mugabe can be continuously referred to as president, a system then in transition. These guys can manage the process and manage the process in such a manner that it does not happen like the other coups where presidents are locked up because a new and total regime is coming to a change. That is really the only difference. And probably this is an important message and a lesson to most of the dictators in Africa that, you can't take for granted the states that people give into your hands, however much you might think you're actually in control. That is how much Mr. Mugabe has been in control. I mean, to his credit, as I said, he has been at the center of Zimbabwe. He led the liberation war. He actually led Zimbabwe through a very big battle with the West, and I think today the guys who are smiling are the guys in London and Washington who basically wanted regime change, but they've not got regime change. Well, they're going to get, if you like, change of guard rather than regime change.
Well, how surprising is it that this was not done by the political opposition? It was not done in a public uprising, but this was actually part of an internal power struggle within his own party.
That is absolutely interesting because that is exactly the point. The opposition, political opposition, as I indicated earlier, could not do it because they really don't have majority support in Zimbabwe, and that is why the rest of Zimbabwe is actually quiet today. They couldn't do it because ZANU-PF is the most popular political party in Zimbabwe. Robert Mugabe, by and large, was very popular and is still the father of that nation, extremely important. But the point is, once these guys defeated, if you like, the attempt for regime change from London and Washington, then came the process of internal dispute for power, meaning who should take over from Mugabe. And that is something that then led to his wife and the other colleagues, and that's really what has led to where we are today.
So where do we go from here? Who is going to take over, and will he be forced to actually resign?
I think he's actually being forced to resign, but I think he's being forced to resign constitutionally, and that's why I say, what kind of coup is it? I think the best which is going on in silence, as Farai is actually suggesting, is actually behind the scenes negotiations, and it will be very important, the role of the South Africans. It's very likely going to be the case that Mr. Mugabe is asked to voluntarily resign, in which case he probably hands over power to some kind of authority inside ZANU-PF and therefore inside Zimbabwe. They go through the Congress come December, and probably at the December Congress, they come up with a new leader. The challenge then is, if they come up with a new leader in December, is that leader constitutionally mandated to take Zimbabwe to the next elections? I think very likely that's when the genuine alternative opposition comes in, where they might end up with, again, some kind of formal government of national unity in which MDC of Morgan Tsvangirai and all the other parties come together, and then they go through the formal elections next year, meaning ZANU-PF then will be having a new leader. And I think the bad news to the guys who wanted regime change in Zimbabwe is that very likely it may be a different face, but it will almost certainly still be ZANU-PF. But of course, yes, Mr. Mugabe was beginning to become a bit of an embarrassment to Africa because he'd got too old. So most of his supporters, including myself, were beginning to say that, well, probably it's time for him to go.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Joseph Ochieno.